We're going to go through some lessons over the next maybe 10 or 11 sessions, and they're all designed to do one thing, and that is to help you become more effective as an entrepreneur, more effective in sales. And what I'm going to do is really focus more on the mindset initially. We'll get into some tactical things, but what I really want you to do is spend a few minutes with these lessons and use them to really refine your mindset as you get into sales and entrepreneurship. This is something that I've got an extensive background with. I've been an entrepreneur, I've been in corporate sales, I've been in financial sales. I have been in sales most of my adult life, actually, almost all of my working career. And one of the things I most love about sales is helping people. And that sounds corny. It sounds cheesy. It is. I recognize that. I recognize that. But really, for me, that's where it comes from. I get really passionate. I get really fired up only when I know and I'm firmly convinced that the material, the product, the service can help you. And that's where I'm coming from today. I feel like I've got some material here that will help you get better as an entrepreneur, help you get better at performing the function of sales. And we're going to dive into it. Like I said, we're going to cover this in about 10 or 11 lessons. They're going to be about 10 minutes each. And leave me some feedback. We're going to get into it. This is going to be as unscripted as I possibly can make it. And but I'm not going off the cuff. Everything that I'm going to share here is coming from an ebook that I wrote called The Sales Monster. I wrote it, I updated it, and it goes through the essential mindsets that you need to be effective as a sales and selling professional slash entrepreneur. So let's get into it. Here's the first thing that you really have to understand if you want to excel in business at any level, frankly, or in sales, and that is everything is sales. Everything is sales. Everything is sales. If you're a teacher, you're in sales because you're working to compel or convince your students that the lesson plan is valuable to them. If you're in an intimate relationship, you're in sales. You're always negotiating a position. You're always expressing yourself. You're always trying to seek alignment between you and your partner. If you're in business at any level, whether you're in accounting, marketing, business development, obviously sales and marketing, any function, any function in business where you've got a constituency, where you've got people that you need to get into alignment, you are in sales. So, my philosophy towards this has always been the same. This is valuable understanding. These are valuable lessons for everyone. Everything is sales. You might as well get used to it. Okay, so here's what makes sales. Let me put it this way. Here's how we bridge the gap between sales and what people feel like may be cringe or creepy and actually being effective in the profession or effective in the role. Even if you don't work in sales, as we just discussed, you may be in a selling role at any given time. So here's how we bridge that gap between feeling cringe, feeling uncomfortable, feeling like it's inappropriate. And that's this. It's really simple. When you're in sales, sell what people want to buy. Sell what people want to buy. It's as simple as that. Now, that sounds simple, but it's really profound because one of the reasons that you or other people reject the idea of being in sales or you feel uncomfortable with the idea of being in sales is that you feel as if you're being pushy, or if someone's being pushy, like there's this old image of someone who just shows up and they're the ones telling all the jokes and they're slapping people on the back and they're buying drinks and cocktails and they're just the life of the party. And that's the image that a lot of people have of a salesperson. Well, I can tell you, and this fits for a lot of people who do really well in sales, that I am mostly an introvert. I can tell a joke, or I can have an illustration, or I can talk about what's going on in current events. But at the end of the day, that's really not me. I don't really fit that typical image, but I've had a lot of success in this profession. And that's just because of what I said a moment ago. I am focused on selling only what people want and need to buy. So, how do we get there? Well, the first place the first place we need to get is to understand that there's only two reasons. There are only two reasons that people buy anything. I'm going to say that again. There are only two reasons that people buy anything. People buy to avoid a pain or to relieve a pain. Now, we can put that in another way. We can say people only buy vitamins or aspirin. They only buy vitamins or aspirin. So in this example, vitamins would be something that people would take to avoid experiencing a pain. The aspirin would be something that people buy to relieve a pain. So those are the only two reasons that people ever buy anything, ever, to avoid a pain or to relieve a pain. Now, as an aside, I'll tell you the most powerful motivation is actually relieving a pain. So aspirin is going to sell more than vitamins, generally speaking. And by generally, I'm going to say probably 90% of the time or more, aspirin is more effective than vitamins. So keep that in mind as you go through your sales process, as you look at your products and your services. You've got to always keep in mind, are you relieving a pain? Are you helping someone avoid a pain? If you're not doing one of those two things, you will not have a customer. You will not have a customer. I am being a little repetitive here. Trust me on this. You've got to get you've got to get it into your mind that there's only two reasons that people will separate themselves from hard-earned, well-earned money. They will give anyone money only for two reasons: to relieve a pain or avoid a pain, and that's it. Now, let's expand on that a little bit because you might be doubting me, and I'm okay with that because I can prove it. Let's think about it in terms of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you understand, or if you've heard of it, you understand that there are physiological needs that we have, there are emotional needs that we have, there are societal needs that we have, there are financial needs, relational needs, any number of needs. And in any way that we have needs, we as people can experience pain. So that still goes back to our fundamental premise that people only separate themselves from money to avoid a pain or relieve a pain. So let's look at some examples. Let's look at something like Air Force Ones. If someone's buying a pair of Air Force Ones or any other trending sneaker, whatever happens to be trendy at the time, why are they doing it? They are doing it because they're expressing a psychological need to feel attractive, um, to feel belonging, to feel like they are part of a trend setting group or a trend participating group. There's a need that they're expressing. If just because they now just because they need or want a pair of shoes doesn't mean that they're going to buy a pair of Jordans. If they are falling lower on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they may just buy a standard pair of shoes, something to put on their feet to make sure that there's a cushion between the bottom of their sole and the sidewalk, and that's fine. That's not the area that most of us are dealing with. Most of us, if you're watching this, you're dealing with someone who's operating at a much higher level of need, meaning they don't have a need to satisfy their thirst. They're not hungry. They're not unhoused. They're looking for other things that need to be satisfied. So, again, they're only spending money for two reasons: to avoid a pain or to relieve a pain. So, where does something like buying a pair of sneakers fit in? It fits in these psychological needs, these belonging needs, these higher order needs that someone has. And if they're going out to buy that pair of sneakers that we've talked about, it's because they are feeling some pain. Maybe they're feeling the pain of not being attractive, the pain of not being fitting into their reference group, their peer group, or they want to avoid the pain of feeling excluded from a certain reference group. Maybe they've got a big date coming up or some event and they don't want to show up looking out of place or feeling out of place. That is the avoidance of a pain or the relieving of a pain. So we've got that out of the way. Let's talk about another fundamental principle before we get into more mindset and eventually tactics. And that is people do not care about you. They do not care about you. They do not care about you. That should be incredibly freeing. One of the things that I see really hinders people from succeeding in business or in sales, or frankly, in anything that's public facing, is they spend too much time, they spend an extraordinary amount of time worrying about how they come across, what people are thinking about them. But here's the reality people are not thinking about you. People are always thinking about themselves. Even as I record this video, I care more about myself and if I'm being effective than I do you or anyone who's watching this. And that's just human nature. I don't make any judgments about that. So let's bring it back to sales and selling. As you're going through your prospecting, as you're engaging in conversations, as you're trying to find solutions for people, keep in mind that that person with whom you're talking cares about themselves. They are not judging you. They're not evaluating you. They're not actively. I mean, we all have our prejudgments. We all have thoughts that race through our mind. But at the fundamental core of that interchange, they're thinking about themselves. And if you're doing your job well, they're thinking about pains that they have, challenges that they have, or challenges that they want to avoid, and how the product or service that you're presenting can help them avoid those pains or relieve those pains. That is just the way it is. So that should be, if you think about it, that should be really freeing. Your job is not to look good. Your job is to find a solution for someone else's pain. So here's how I learned that. Here's how I learned that. I learned it when I first got into a business development role, and I had a coach, I had a mentor that was kind of guiding me through this whole world of business and corporate development. And one of the things he told me is that he said, Mark, you are too concerned about looking good. You are too concerned about looking good. And he even shared with me, now this is extreme. What I'm going to tell you is extreme, but I have heard this more than once or twice. And that is, he would actually dirty his shirt, muddy his shirt, or do something to throw himself off kilter just to take away that pressure of needing to feel like he was the sharpest in the room, he was looking good, just to put that pressure aside, that pressure to look good, to look perfect, to sound perfect, to take all that and put it aside. He would do something to physically sully his clothes or otherwise look or come across disheveled. Now, I cannot say I've ever done that. There's a whole other set of reasons why I probably would not do that, but it does remind me. It does make me. Uh, it makes me mindful of the idea that it's not about me, and as such, I have to say, when I'm reminding myself that it's not about me, I'm much more effective because in that moment that I'm talking to someone, I can always go through and think about what do they need to hear at this moment? What do they need from me? And that guides the conversation. Uh, the shorthand that I use in my mind is I want to make sure that I'm scratching where they itch. I want to make sure that I'm scratching where they itch. If I'm not doing that, I am wasting everyone's time. So, to recap that, the freeing thought that you should have in your mind is that they do not care about you. No one is judging you. No one is spending time analyzing you. You are there to find where they have hurts or where they want to avoid hurts and present a solution that can do those things or one or two of those things for them. Simple as that. So listen, here's where we stop. Here's where we here's where we're at the end of this introduction. Over the next several, I'm going to call it 9, 10, 11 videos, I'm going to take you through the mindset that it requires to become a sales monster. Now, if you want to get ahead of me or if you want to read more on this, I want you to download my ebook. It is free of charge. There is no charge to this. I will put the link below this video. Go there, click maybe 1 or 2 clicks, and you will have the PDF delivered directly to you. So I want you to take advantage of that. It's going to help you, trust me. And just to recap what we discussed here today, it's simply this. It's the sales monster is going to walk you through different mindsets that you can have to be more effective in sales. And then also, we want to always be reminded that our job is to solve a problem. And there are only 2 problems that need solving in any given day in any given format. Problem 1 is relieving a pain. Problem 2 is avoiding a pain. An example of avoiding a pain is something like life insurance, car insurance. A person wants to avoid the pain of becoming destitute because of a freak accident or event. That would be avoiding a pain. Relieving a pain, as we talked about, there's any number of psychological, emotional, physiological, relational needs that people have. And in all those areas, we as humans can feel lack, and that lack is often expressed as or felt as a pain. And so when you look at effective marketing, advertising, and sales campaigns, they are still addressing one of those 2 things: the avoidance of a pain or the relieving of a pain. And then finally, what we talked about, and just as a reminder, is to understand that it is not about you. People are not evaluating you, they're not judging you, they're not caring about you, they're not caring about you. And it may sound harsh, but I'm not trying to make it deep. What I'm trying to say here is that people, and that is all of us, are infinitely more concerned about ourselves than we are anyone else. And to me, that's very freeing. It should be freeing for you as well. And I can tell you, one of the things when I really started to understand that, it made me very difficult to embarrass. It's very hard to embarrass me because in any situation that I go into, it's my realization that everyone else in that situation cares much more about themselves and how they look than they care about me and how I look. So, again, go through these lessons. I promise you they will help you if you're just getting started in sales, or if you've been struggling in sales or struggling as an entrepreneur and need a mindset shift. These next several lessons are going to help you tremendously. And I also want you to make sure that you get the ebook. So follow the link below and download that. It'll come right to your inbox. Leave me some comments. Let's talk about it. Let's go.